Hey, Team Healthy. Well, I have a little bit of a different kind of broadcast for us here today. And it's one, obviously, you know that I get excited about these things. I have a special guest with me. He's a business executive. It's Adrian Terry. And this is a fellow that I've known for a number of years. He's such a wonderful person. And we're going to be talking about leadership styles, and we're going to talk about his experiences of figuring out how to be a wise and an influential leader in the world of work. But I know Adrian well enough to know that he's also decided, well, if I'm going to be showing an emphasis on how to manage myself well in a very narcissistic atmosphere, perhaps at work, I need to be consistent. So he's also brought it over into his personal life. He has many good things to talk about. Adrian is he's been in the, and by the way, Adrian, thank you so much for being on the broadcast with us here today. I'm so pleased to have you.
Good to be here.
Okay, and you're in the Dallas, Texas area, Dallas Fort Worth, Texas area. Adrian has been in the world, the professional world, for around 30 years, and for the last 20 years or more, he's been working his way up into the ranks of leadership into the organizations he's working with. Right now, Adrian, you're working for GM Financial, is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So when somebody goes in and buys a car, then you're part of the group that figures out how they can make it happen. And so it's so important for us to have somebody in your position because you represent so much of my audience, and so you you have your MBA and you're working on a doctorate right now. It's kind of like, man, you just won't quit learning, will you?
Yeah, really excited about it. It's been a very transformational journey. I can tell you that.
Now, tell me what the PhD is that you're working on. What's the title of it or the emphasis?
Absolutely, it's in business leadership. I have a sincere interest in transformational leadership, and just in general how leaders make decisions. Just with those two bullets, I've been impacted both positively and negatively by how leaders lead me and how they make decisions. So at this point in my career, it's something I really want to study and focus on.
And now that you're more and more in that position where you're the one who's doing the leading, give me an idea of how this became a focal point for you and how I know we all kind of morph and evolve as the years go by. You're an IT guy. And we tend not to think of IT people and math people as the ones that are so tuned into the personal dimension. So you're breaking that stereotype. But how did this become such a focal point for you?
Absolutely. Well, my start in corporate America was in IT, and IT personalities are somewhat unique. They can be very different than people in marketing communications, as you can probably imagine. But I knew early on I wanted to be a good leader. And while on my journey to try to figure out what kind of leader I wanted to be, I was clueless, trying to figure it out. So that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper was mostly blank for the early part of my career as I began to take notes on the type of leader that I wanted to be. However, I had some very negative experiences with some leaders in terms of their output towards me and how they led, that it was easy for me to take notes on the type of leader I did not want to
Okay.
be.
What,
So,
if you could be so bold, what kind of things did you pick up on from other leaders that, were the opposite of the model that you were looking at?
the just the classic list, everything from taking credit for work that I specifically did with my hands to if something didn't go well, being able to throw me under the bus so that I would take the blame, so that the leader could feel
So
good
in other
about
words, if it
themselves.
goes right, I get credit. If it goes wrong, you did it.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, I
Okay.
saw quite a bit of that early in my career. And just observing a leader who just took too much pride in the size of their team. So there was always this quest to add another head or two so that they could justify their seat at the table.
Okay. And as you were observing that, now here you are, I know you're in your 50s, when you're in your 20s and 30s and you're kind of getting your groove on. What did you find viscerally happening to the inside of you when you were around people who just didn't seem to have the best interest of the people in their service at heart. What did that do to you on a personal level, Adrian?
Oh, well, it just, in all the ways that I can describe feeling disconnected, not only from my team, but also from my organization. The feeling of being disenfranchised, that you are a cog in the wheel, you belong down in the engine room of this cruise ship, shoveling coal to keep this thing moving. But
Okay.
to the degree that I might want to come up on the promenade deck and have a glass of champagne or two with the other leaders. No, that's not for you. Yeah, I have you placed, Adrian, right where I want you, and you're doing good just to be where I need you. So it just feeling alone. If I could sum it up in one word, it's feeling alone. And feeling alone when you're in a relationship with these people, your
Yeah.
leaders.
Yeah.
Uh,
The aloneness, meaning I don't feel a connection. You don't know me.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
What
Uh,
kind of themes would you see from these leaders that now, in retrospect, I know you've read a lot about narcissism, and you and I have discussed that quite a bit ourselves. But what kind of themes did you see in these business relations that show the narcissistic bent?
well, some themes, uh, everything from what I just mentioned, um, opening up the next requisition so they can just add one more person to the team, and it be kind of clear and obvious that there may not necessarily be anything for that new person to come work on. It's clearly a headcount move. Um, the philosopher Kant talks about, team members uh, should not be a means for the leader's praise and promotion. I think Bowie is also another leader who espoused to that kind of thinking, that they exist for a reason, for a cause. Um, and the team should really rally around a goal, a mission, and a set of objectives, as opposed to looking at the team from the perspective of you exist to do my bidding, you exist to carry my narrative forward. And the classic hateful joke or phrase, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 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 When we talk about the narcissistic leader, they start with the beginning point that says, well, it's about me and we got to make me look good. And so, like you say, you exist to prop me up. And you're talking about people entering into the world of business with a broader notion than just that. Um, have you found other people along the way as you've been in your journey who would you would talk with privately, who would say, well, Adrian, I've had the same experience, and go get them, buddy? I mean, have you found that to be the case?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not an isolated incident. I hate to use the V word, but the victims are everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's easy to find someone
Yeah,
that
the
I can lock
recipients of
elbows with.
their hubris.
Exactly, exactly. So plenty of opportunity for me to lock elbows with someone as we kind of march, if you will, down this journey of being impacted by this specific leader type that we're talking about.
Okay. Now you've locked in, and I know that you're working on your doctorate, and you're focusing on what you refer to as transformational leadership.
That's
Can you
correct.
describe that for us? What is transformational leadership?
Transformational leadership, very different than, let's say, traditional leadership. Traditionally, the leader might motivate and encourage the employees by the carrot and the stick approach, right? The carrot being there's some nice bonus at the end of the year for you at the end, the completion of this project that is done successful. Or if you don't change your behavior, then you're going to suffer these consequences. So, carrot and stick approach, ways of motivating the employee. Transformational leadership says, hey, I want to partner with you. I understand that you have a desire for upward mobility. And as we kind of come up with a list of activities, things that you can participate in to help expand upon your understanding of leadership, I want to partner there with you. I don't want to create a prescriptive list of things that you go do and it just be a matter of us checking the box that you've done them. I actually want to engage with you as you go down this journey. And as you grow, I suspect that as a leader, I'm going to learn something as well. So it's transformational from the perspective of not only am I partnering with the employees so that they can step into a new level of leadership, but I also grow, if in no other capacity, in my understanding of humanity.
Those are such powerful words, Adrian. So what I'm hearing, and of course, you know that the bulk of my work has been dealing with people who have family issues or things like that. Obviously, I have dealt with plenty of folks who have issues inside the world of business. But what you're talking about is something that is pertinent across the board. Obviously, you're talking about in the boardroom and down with the cubicles where everybody else is working. But we're talking about just relationships in general, whether it's your family or friendships or whoever. Would that be a fair thing for us to presume?
Absolutely, absolutely. It would be very disingenuous to behave one way at work with my peers and the people on my team, and then have a completely different persona at home.
Yeah, exactly.
There are probably some leaders that can do that, but I would find that very difficult in my instance.
Okay, so what I just heard you say is when you go into this transformational leadership mindset, it's not a technique that you pull out. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of being. It represents a worldview, if you will. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Very, very fair, very fair. To the leader that is really narcissistic, and even if they see behaving like a transformational leadership as one more tool in their belt,
yeah,
to go exercise their will, they may have temporary results at best.
okay. So in other words, there's a difference between a leader who's transactional. Okay, you need to do A, B, and C, and we're going to all be happy. Versus when you use that word transformational, we're talking about something that's way more than just transactional. I
Absolutely.
loved what you said when you imply, I want to know you, I want to listen to you. The implication is we're all in a growth mode. Work happens to be a place where we find one another, but can we assist each other in the lifelong growth process? Is that a fair thing for us to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you came back to the word growth, because the leader that wants to exercise transformational leadership recognizes that I cannot have a fixed mindset. I have to have a growth mindset. And even the people on my team and around me that are maybe at a lower level in the hierarchy, I can still learn from them as they pursue their move upward in the hierarchy as well.
Okay, I can learn from them. And I think about so many people that start with the presumption, you need to learn from me. Am I right?
But yeah, it is interesting as people move up in their careers in the corporate space. At some point in time, they were a SME. They were a subject matter expert, really good at what they did.
Subject matter expert, a SME.
Yeah, an SME, and as a result of that, now they're super high in the organization. But moving away from that expertise in that specific discipline or domain, and then understanding there is still so much that I need to learn if I'm going to be an effective leader. That's one end of the spectrum as opposed to the other end, which says I got her as a SME. I'm still a SME. I'm going to be a SME. Going to be a SME until the day I die.
Yeah.
There's really no need for me to
I'm
grow.
the expert, and don't you forget it.
I'm the expert. My expertise is what got me here. So it's a spectrum. It really is, from one end to the other.
Okay. Now, you know that one of the things I talk about when I refer to people with a strong narcissistic bent is that they're terribly insecure. Can you speak to that issue?
Yeah, I have seen on a number of occasions in my career, specifically in the career of others, when you bring a level of expertise that goes above and beyond the leader who's leading you. It depends if they're not narcissistic or on the relationship side of the spectrum, they're either going to struggle with leading you, or they're going to embrace you. And the embrace you type of leader is looking for opportunities where the broader organization can take advantage of who you are, your knowledge, skills, abilities. As opposed to the narcissistic leader, they're looking for ways to contain, keep you in a box with manacles, shackles, handcuffs, because I need you for my head count. You're helping my numbers on my team.
Yeah.
So that's really why I need you. So that's
so
two totally
poignant.
different.
So the narcissistic leader is trying to contain you, whereas the transformational leader is trying to, shall we say, release you and let you be what you are, obviously inside the parameters of what we're trying to achieve, because that always is something that we need to maintain. And that's so crucial for us to realize. Healthy leaders, influential people, want to bring out the best in others. And so you haven't used the word, but you're talking all the way through it, and it's the word empathy. And the implication is you lead with a mindset that says, I want to know you. And I want to know you not as a matter of collecting data against you, but I want to know you because just what you said, good chance I can learn something from you. How do you see that as being integral to this transformational leadership style that you've locked in with?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you centered on the word empathy. Empathy does lead to the leader desiring to know the employee at a personal level. And the benefits from that are tremendous. If I spend time with you, if I get to know you, what your preferences are, the types of projects and initiatives you're super excited about, how you feel about the work currently on your plate, all that is contained within me getting to know you has other benefits. If I am a leader and I'm engaging someone at my level in a totally different part of the business, and they are hurting because they need someone to come in to do something James Bond 007 style with a piece of work. Well, because I know you, I'm mindful of your knowledge, skills, and abilities. And if the season is right to offer your name up so that you can come help in a critical area, you're blessed by it because you're being sponsored now. Your name is being mentioned in a positive way, and you don't even have a seat at that strategy table where that conversation took place.
Mm-hmm.
So for you to find out about it, I mean, how does it make you feel to know that people are tossing your name around for these really strategic, cool, awesome initiatives, and you weren't even in the room? So empathy leads to me building a relationship, which helps to support, I think the word I'm looking for, Dr. Carter, is sponsorship.
Okay.
Employees who are wanting to move up in the organization, they crave sponsorship. Who's willing to say my name in a positive way when I'm not in the room?
Wow. Who's willing to say my name in a positive way, even when I'm not in the room? In other words, it's more than just my utility to you in the moment, but you know and understand me.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah. When the employee recognizes that they are just another tool in the toolbox, to give it more weight, a decorative piece, that hurts. I have seen that way too many times in my career. And so I've learned from that, which is why I'm on the journey that I'm on.
Adrian, you and I have spoken on a personal level about the concept that I refer to as the significance principle, and you've locked into that, and I think that's wonderful. I have a friend who's now he's not with us anymore, but Dr. Jim Underwood. He was a professor in the School of Business, and he and I did some work. We talked about the significance principle. Everybody wants to be known as significant, and how to find another person's place of significance. But then we also spoke about the significance paradox, which says the best way for me to find my significance is to help you find yours. How has that kind of mindset impacted the way that you engage with people? And again, let's contrast that with these more self-impressed narcissistic people. What are your thoughts about all of that?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, leaders have a really strong appetite to pursue their own significance at work. And I'm seeing
Kind
the
of like,
consequences.
look at me.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing the consequences of that. I just made up my mind. Listen, Adrian, want to put out a different brand of leadership. The internet, if you go out there and Google Dr. Carter, the word leadership, you'll see roughly, I just looked this up recently, about 5 billion results that have come back in Google, as opposed to followership. If you do a search on that word, you might get right at 2 million.
Okay.
So 5 billion versus 2 million. What does that tell us? We
About
are
leadership
basically,
versus followership. So,
absolutely, we are.
how do you distinguish the emphasis there? What does that say to you?
We are consumed with learning everything we can about leadership as opposed to learning about the people who are being impacted by the leader. That's the followership.
Okay.
Leaders are trying to influence a
Yeah.
group of people towards a goal. Followers are constantly assessing that influence from the leader, making a decision every day. Am I going to continue to follow? Am I going to continue to follow? Well, we just don't talk enough about followership, and leadership is such a huge theme. So it is like this vortex. There's information everywhere you go, social media, Facebook, especially LinkedIn. Oh my goodness, leadership, leadership, leadership. It's like this vicious vortex, this tunnel that it's trying to suck us in. And so if we can just take a moment to say, back to your point, Dr. Carter, the significance paradox. The best way that I can find my significance as a leader is to help others find their significance. And I've been testing the significance paradox, the book written by you and Dr. Underwood. And so far, my hypothesis has been holding true. People
Okay.
are thirsty for something a wee bit different. And I'm very excited about continuing this for the next couple of years to see where it leads. But
You
so far, it's
know,
been a good
as I'm
time.
listening to you, I'm just my mind is going into 16 different directions. What you just said about in order to be a good leader, you need to know the mind of the follower and what motivates them. That has so much implication for our marriages, our parenting style, how we manage ourselves in organizations, friendships. I need to know you first before simply applying my brilliance to you and superimposing me onto you. It's like, well, who are you, and what are your unique kinds of skill set that you and ideas and principles and values that you bring. And I guess it's kind of sad. And I'd kind of like to hear some of your thoughts on this. That it almost is news when we find someone like an Adrian Terry that says, "Yeah, that's how I do things." I mean, you're kind of an outlier for something that ought to be mainstream.
Absolutely. It's so significant. I drafted my own personal constitution several years ago. And so when I began to step into this experiment, I added this to that content, to my document. Um, um, the employees that I get to engage, they are so thirsty for this transformational leadership, me exercising empathy, building a relationship with them, and getting to know them and who they are. Um, I'm such a contrast to some of the other leaders. I have people reaching out to me periodically. I'll get a little chat in our virtual collaboration tool. Hey, Adrian, do you have a few minutes so that we can talk later today? That happens
And
once
people
or
pick
twice a
up on it
week.
when they sense that that's the kind of person you are.
Absolutely, and there's such a thirst for it. So I feel this an overwhelming burden now that I've stepped into this place to stay as equipped as I possibly can in terms of the tools that I can use and conversations that I can have to help the followers around me.
Now, Adrian, I know you've done you've kind of taken some of these ideas and turned them something into your own. But there's a comment that you have made that I've heard you state before that I think is just intriguing, and I'd like to get your perspective on this. You've mentioned before, leadership is not for you. What does that mean?
Great question. So yeah, if I were to step into a mentoring relationship with someone who's trying to learn more about leadership, to lead with that is going to be very confusing because that's the very thing that they want. Here they are desiring
Trying to
leadership,
be a
and I tell
leader.
them exactly, well, leadership is not for you. And then I tell them the story about where I heard that from. I heard a good friend of mine, his wife, posted something on social media, and it was just a simple statement: "Marriage is not for you." And here she is married to my good friend. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Is
Okay.
their marriage in trouble? What's going on? And I began reading more of her posts, and her point was this: marriage is not for you, in the sense that uh, hopefully you didn't get married to see what you could get out of it. You exist for your marriage, husband, wife, both of you pouring into uh, uh, your own construct of unity and the marriage benefits. And when the marriage is benefiting from what you're pouring into it, then you can tend to see benefits
And
as
that's
well.
the significance paradox.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So as it goes with leadership, leadership is not for you. As you pour more into empathy and the degree to which you build a relationship with people on your team, right? Not having these little vertical dyads where only one or two people on the team are the favorites, but you are getting to know everyone on the team. You will find your significance as you partner with them in their career growth, their development plans, and them experiencing you in a very genuine and real way. This leader cares about me. Then you're going to be surprised with what you get on the receiving end from a leader. The next time some sort of a emergency situation pops up and you need people to stay late or to do a little bit of work on the weekend, uh, uh, that's going to put the team in a position where they don't want to disappoint you because you've been
Yeah.
so genuine.
And
You've been so
it's not a
authentic.
tactic. It's just a natural byproduct.
It's a natural byproduct, and that's the mistake. When you step into that as a tactic, it shows up as being very disingenuous. But
Yes.
when you want to receive from that as a byproduct, it's very different.
Now I'm going to play the devil's advocate, and of course, I guess that sets you up to play the angel's advocate. So, what I can just hear my authoritarian minded people that I know who will say, "All right, Adrian, this business of transformational leadership, where you show empathy and you try to get to know that other person, that's just too soft. You've got to push your people. We're out there to sell product and we're out there to provide service, and we've got to always look at the bottom line, and you're just going way too soft and touchy feely." What would you say to those authoritarian minded, narcissistically minded individuals like that?
Well, I'm sure there is data that supports why that type of leadership style is not effective. Turnover rate, attrition, employee engagement surveys, especially in large organizations where those tools are used to assess the experience of the employees. It would be very telling. And contrast that with the opposite,
Yeah.
that type of leader that's very engaged and very relationship driven. Employees are tend to have a much better experience at work, and that shows up in their output and what we're delivering to our customers. So,
So, in other
to the
words, you're
degree,
still very performance focused.
absolutely, absolutely,
Um,
and the transformational leader recognizes that one of the best ways to deliver better to the customer is to make sure that the employees have a rock star experience as much as possible.
uh, are you familiar with the book Quiet? It's about introverts in the world of business.
Exactly, it was
Um,
one by Susan Cain.
yeah,
It's on
that's
my
it.
list,
That's
but I
it.
haven't had a
Okay.
chance to get to it yet. Yeah.
Okay. Because she talks about how, typically you'll get the top, let's say you have a conference meeting and you have a dozen people in there, and you'll have three or four people that'll dominate the meeting because they're the extroverts and they're the ones that like to push their opinions. And her whole thing is, well, what about that guy over there that's kind of quiet? And I know you're more in the introverted direction. We need to hear from that person. And so you're trying to say, well, let's cut through this leadership style that allows only the loud people to have any kind of say, and let's make it far more broad and inclusive and tuned in to all people at the table.
Exactly, exactly. I'm so glad you brought this up. A transformational leader in that same scenario, Dr. Carter, he or she will bring those other voices to the table.
But you have to
Again,
know who they are first before you can even do that, right?
absolutely, you have to know who they are. And if you've been having conversations with them and you know they have some thinking that can help support the current conversation, asking Jim or Susan, hey, what are your thoughts on this? I'm pretty sure you have something that you like to add. You have thoughts on the subject. Now, that is in the corporate sense. How much more so at home? Planning a
Okay.
family vacation. Where are we going to go? What sort of decision that we have to make? The narcissist, I'm sure, wants to make the decision and say this is how it's going to
Let
be,
me explain to
as
you how it ought to
opposed,
be.
yeah, as opposed to the transformational leader at home who wants and is desiring to hear the voice of everyone in the household.
And I know you're a dad, and let's suppose you have a teenager at home and something's gone wrong, which is not very difficult to imagine. So the implication there is that before you just say, well, here's my pronouncement and here's how we're going to deal with it, the implication there is talk to the teenager. What was on your mind? And I know that you had certain things that you were trying to accomplish. Let's take a look at that. How did it work? How did it not work? What would you like for me to know? Is that a possibility, you suppose, to take that same transformational form of leadership and straight into parenting, or for that matter, dealing with your siblings, adult siblings who are difficult or whatever?
Absolutely. And, you know, especially with teenagers, it deepens the connection with them. And to the degree that this is just my experience, that it can happen frequently, that becomes a norm. So the next time that teenager is struggling with something, they don't necessarily know this. Again, this is my experience, but that default switch, who am I accustomed to having these sorts of conversations with? The transformational leader or leaders at home. And that is just powerful, even as I think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I once had a professor, this is back when I was maybe 24 years old, who said, Les, you're not going to be able to lead anyone any further than where you yourself are able to go.
Mhm.
And so you made this point a little earlier. It's like, well, I want to be this way at work, but I don't want to just lay it on my desk, or, when I open the garage door, I don't want to just leave it in the garage. I want to carry this mindset everywhere. Uh, okay.
Exactly.
So basically, and again, this is a term that you're not using, but I'm hearing it. It's the term self-actualization. We're all ideally, we would all be in an actualizing mode. And when we say actualizing, you're trying to be the person that you were actually meant to be. And you see life as an ongoing growth process. So what I'm hearing you say is, okay, whether we're in the world of work, and here you are now, and you're in your leadership roles, or in home or friendships or organizations, I'm going to become an actualized person, or I'm going to be on that path as I tune into those who join me on the path. Would you like to come with me?
Absolutely. Uh,
And that's,
helping other people realize their significance. What a world we would have if we made it a friendly competition of trying to outdo each other and helping others feel significant. Wow.
yeah. When you talk about a healthy competition, years ago, I don't know why this illustration came to my mind. I was at a Dallas Mavericks game. I like watching basketball, and it was at the very tail end of Dr. J. Julius Irving's is at the tail end of his career. I think it was his last season. It was when the Mavericks were new to the scene, and in the last 2 seconds of the game, he hit a 3-pointer, and his team won, and the Mavericks lost. And the buddy I went to the ball game with, as we were walking back to the parking lot, it's like, shoot, the Mavericks lost, and I can't stand it. I can't stand it. We lost at the last second. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? I got to watch Dr. J. And he did what Dr. J does. He beat us. Wow, that was fabulous. And rather than thinking, yeah, but this is me and this is my team, can we just have a little broader view and think, yeah, that's pretty cool. But and I don't know how that pertains to your transformational leadership style, but the idea being, can we just look beyond what my immediate cravings might be and just embrace the entire picture that's there in front of us?
Exactly. To your point, the arena and the corporate environment are rich with opportunities uh, for significance. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Adrian, today our discussion here has gone so quickly. I want to say thank you once again for being with us here on our Surviving Narcissism channel. I'm guessing that we're having people listening to us here today that are thinking, "Oh, I so wish I had someone like Adrian Terry that was at the top of my food chain so that I could actually be heard and known and understood." You speak well to the whole notion of people who are wanting. I mean, I know you want to move up the ranks in the world of business, but you want to carry as many people with you as possible. I just think what you're saying is just absolutely wonderful here today.
No, thank you, Dr. Carter. Thank you so much.
It's a message we all need. So with me here again one more time is Adrian Terry and transformational leadership. It's a mindset that we obviously apply at work, but at home and our friendships. Adrian, I just once again want to say thank you for being here with us, and more importantly than that, thank you for just being you.
Dr. Carter, thank you for an amazing opportunity.
Okay.
Enjoy it.
And okay. Thank you so much. Well, Team Healthy, there you have it. And I think you understand why I was excited about having Adrian in with us today. So I hope that you all have a good week ahead of you, and I will see you next time and look forward to more invigorating discussions. So thank you once again, and I'll see you next time around.